Al Pacino. The man we revere for his portrayal of Michael Corleone, the screen's coldest, most powerful mafia boss, almost never got that role. That's right. One of the most iconic casting decisions in Hollywood history began with skepticism, even vehement opposition. It was a secret, an underground battle that, had the outcome been different, we might not have the Al Pacino we know today. Picture this. A young man, small in stature, with a relatively unknown face, walks into an audition where Paramount Pictures at the time wanted a big star, a familiar name for the role of Michael Corleone. They said he was too short, too unknown, didn't have the makings of a mafia leader. But one person saw the fire hidden behind those eyes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the starting point of a legend. To understand Al Pacino, we must go back in time, to the dusty streets of East Harlem and South Bronx, New York, in the 40s and 50s. Alfredo James Pacino, a boy of Italian descent, grew up in hardship and with an early family breakdown. His mother, Rose, and his maternal grandparents nurtured his soul. It was from sneaking into movie theaters, watching classic films over and over, mimicking every gesture, every line of dialogue, that the seeds of passion began to sprout. Pacino wasn't an outstanding student in the traditional sense. He was rebellious, dropped out of school at 17, and worked all sorts of jobs to make a living, from mail clerk, movie theater usher, to shoe salesman. But the flame of acting never died. Then he found his way to the Herbert Berghof studio, and most importantly, the legendary Actors Studio. Here, under the guidance of Lee Strasberg, the father of method acting in America, Pacino was honed. It wasn't just about learning techniques, it was a deep dive into his own self, unearthing the most hidden emotional layers to live the character, not just act the character. Imagine a young Pacino sitting for hours in the darkness of the Actors Studio, observing, listening, and wrestling with questions about the human condition, about the motives behind every action. It was this arduous training that created a Pacino with incredible psychological depth, an ability to embody roles so completely that people forgot they were watching an actor, seeing only the character Cien Hu manifest. He shone on off-Broadway and then Broadway, winning an Obie Award and a Tony Award. The stage was the fertile ground that nurtured his talent, where he refined every gesture, every look, every breath. But destiny had a larger stage set for him, cinema. And then The Panic in Needle Park, 1971, appeared. Pacino's portrayal of a heroin addict caught the attention of a talented young director named Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola was preparing for an ambitious project, adapting Mario Puzo's novel, The Godfather. He needed a Michael Corleone. This is when the incident I mentioned earlier began. Paramount wanted an established star like Robert Redford, Warren Beatty, or Jack Nicholson. They couldn't imagine a little-known Pacino, with his less-than-imposing appearance, carrying such a crucial role. They screen-tested him again and again, 7 times, 8 times. Each time, Pacino felt like he was about to be cut. He recounted that there were times he sat in the waiting room, watching other famous actors walk out, and thought, "I don't stand a chance." Coppola had to fight. He saw in Pacino the exact essence of Michael Corleone, a sharp intelligence hidden behind a quiet demeanor, a terrifying explosive potential, a transformation from an outsider to a holder of absolute power. Coppola threatened to quit the project if he didn't get Pacino. It was a big gamble, an almost blind faith in a talent not yet widely proven. And then, the decisive moment arrived. In the scene where Michael assassinates Sollozzo and Captain McCluskey at Louis's restaurant, Pacino's look changed everything. That gaze, from a slight hesitation at first, shifted to cold determination, then to an emptiness after the deed was done. Paramount finally had to admit they had found their Michael Corleone. And the rest, as they say, is history. The Godfather, 1972, wasn't just a film, it was a monument. Al Pacino, from a promising stage actor, skyrocketed to global stardom. His first Oscar nomination came, and a golden decade unfolded. The 70s belonged to Al Pacino. He didn't repeat himself. Each role was a new discovery, a new challenge. Serpico, 1973. He embodied Frank Serpico, an honest New York cop, alone in his fight against corruption within the force. We saw a Pacino full of ideals, indignation, yet also very down-to-earth, very human. Serpico's eyes were eyes of disappointment, of pain when trust was betrayed. The Godfather Part 2, 1974. Michael Corleone returned, but he was different, more powerful, more ruthless, and more alone. Pacino masterfully portrayed the erosion of the soul of a man consumed by the underworld. Michael's gaze in this installment was colder, emptier, as if all emotion had been frozen. It was one of the greatest performances of moral degradation. Dog Day Afternoon, 1975. A completely different role. Sonny Wartzik, an amateur bank robber, desperate, yet so very human. Pacino was explosive, chaotic, tragically comedic. His shout of "Attica, Attica" became a symbol of protest. Who can forget the breathtaking tension as Sonny confronted the police and the crowd? And Justice for All, 1979. Lawyer Arthur Kirkland, a man caught between his ideals of justice and a corrupt legal system. The final scene when Kirkland screams, "You're out of order. This whole trial is out of order." Zrania was the explosion of a soul pushed to its absolute limit. 4 consecutive Oscar nominations in the 70s. 4 times Pacino came close to the golden statuette. He redefined the concept of a dramatic lead actor in Hollywood. He wasn't classically handsome, but his charisma came from his inner strength, from the intensity in every role. Many ask, why did such a talent have to wait until 1993 to win an Oscar for Scent of a Woman? Perhaps that's part of the harshness and also the intrigue of this award. Sometimes the Academy leans towards safer choices, or perhaps the ferocity of Pacino in his early roles intimidated some. The 80s were a quieter period in Pacino's film career. Scarface, 1983, with his portrayal of Tony Montana, though initially met with mixed reviews, later became a cult classic, a pop culture icon. Say hello to my little friend. Who doesn't know that line? Tony Montana was the embodiment of the distorted American dream, an immigrant rising from the bottom through violence and boundless ambition, only to be destroyed by those same things. It was an extreme, risky role, but Pacino didn't hesitate to commit. After the failure of Revolution, 1985, he took a 4-year break from the big screen, returning to the stage where he rediscovered his energy and inspiration. And his comeback with Sea of Love, 1989, marked a new chapter. In the early 90s, Pacino exploded back onto the scene. Dick Tracy, 1990, earned him another Oscar nomination. Then, 1992, an unbelievable year, 2 Oscar nominations simultaneously. One for supporting actor in Glengarry Glen Ross, a film Jude G featuring an ensemble of veteran actors, where Pacino played Ricky Roma, a slick, seasoned salesman with dialogue as sharp as a razor, and one for lead actor in Scent of a Woman. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, a retired blind army officer, caustic but with a soul yearning to live, to be loved, hidden deep inside. Pacino didn't act blind. He was blind. From the way he moved, listened, to his sudden outbursts of rage and rare moments of tenderness. And of course, the legendary tango. Hoo-ah! That exclamation became his trademark. Finally, after 7 misses, the Oscar was his. The entire auditorium stood and applauded. It wasn't just recognition for one role, it was a tribute to an entire career of tireless dedication. Did you know that to prepare for the role of Frank Slade, Pacino spent a lot of time with blind individuals, learning how they perceived the world, how they saw with their other senses. He even kept his eyes unfocused on anything during filming, even when off camera, to the point that it almost affected his real eyesight. That is the dedication of a great artist. Al Pacino didn't stop. He continued to challenge himself with Carlito's Way, Heat, Donnie Brasco, The Insider, Any Given Sunday. Every role, big or small, bore his distinct mark. Even in his late 70s, he was full of passion in The Irishman, once again collaborating with his great friends and collaborators Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro. Looking back at Al Pacino's journey, from a poor kid in the Bronx to a cinematic icon, what do we see? It's a story of burning passion, of relentless hard work, of the courage to go against the grain to pursue an artistic vision. He showed us that acting isn't just about reciting lines and making faces. It's a deep dive into the hidden corners of the human soul. He taught us that true strength doesn't lie in muscles or outward appearance, but in inner power, in expressive eyes, in the ability to touch the deepest emotions of the audience. His characters, whether saintly or cruel, weak or powerful, all share one common trait. They are very human, with all their contradictions, desires, and internal tragedies. That is the story of Al Pacino through the lens of legendary perspectives. A story that will continue to be told. Please share with us in the comments below. What is your favorite Al Pacino role and why? What memories do you associate with his films? Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this program, subscribe so you don't miss other fascinating stories, and share this video to spread the love of cinema to more people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for